Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, I want to really thank the Honorable Heriot, our Majority Leader, for moving this bill in a very eloquent way and expressing how important this bill is. Mr. Speaker, I think I'm one of the older members in this House. And Mr. Speaker, part of my political journey, I served the Republic of Kenya as elected member of Garsen. And Mr. Speaker, thereafter, I was out of office because I stood unsuccessfully twice for the position of governor of Tana River County, and later on, I came back to this House. The people of Tana River brought me to the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I can speak with authority what it means to be in office and what it means to be out of office. I'm not telling stories, Mr. Speaker. I'm telling you the truth that from my personal experience, if it wasn't for the fact that, Mr. Speaker, I had run a law firm, that law firm was the one that sustained me, Mr. Speaker, for 10 years and continues to do so to date. Mr. Speaker, there are colleagues we served with in that parliament. And when they left, like Majority Leader said, they could not find employment. And Mr. Speaker, what is provided for, even in our scheme as senators and members of parliament, is if you have served for 2 terms consecutively. So if you haven't, and you did only 1 term, you have a problem. And if you have, but also you didn't make much contribution, you have a problem. And if you have, but you don't have another source of income, you have a problem. So, Mr. Speaker, what I'm talking about is real. We need to support members of county assembly who serve and they finish their term and are not re-elected by the people back to office. Mr. Speaker, it is real that when you are out of office, you face the reality that you cannot be employed. You have to have your own self-employment. You have to have your own business. And Mr. Speaker, a lot of our members of county assembly, they finish their term, they are not re-elected back, and they do not have businesses, Mr. Speaker. They do not have professional training. They are not engineers, they are not lawyers, they are not doctors. So they don't have something to fall back to in terms of their sustainable income. So, Mr. Speaker, it has been a problem. Back in Tana River County, Mr. Speaker, old members of the County Assembly of Tana River County, old members of the former Tana River County Council, when you meet them, Mr. Speaker, you feel bad because you want to help, but you can only do so much. Mr. Speaker, this bill is critical. This bill must be supported by the people of Kenya and by the Senate. Mr. Speaker, why I say so? People who have given service to this nation, people who have taken their time, some even left their careers to come and offer service to the people who elected them. And then after that, you find difficulties in going back to your career. And it's practical, and I keep going back to this. that after having served 10 years as a member of parliament, you go back to your practice and you find your old clients have moved on. Because when you took up public office, you didn't have time to give them all the attention they required. So they have moved on to other practitioners of the law. And if you're an engineer or you're a consultant in a certain field, say economics, if you left the House of Parliament, National Assembly, County Assembly, or the Senate, and you go back, you will find your clients have left. So, Mr. Speaker, it is like beginning afresh. You will find you are competing with much younger people who have gone into the field. So there is need for us to plan ahead for our members of the County Assembly. There is need for us to give them dignity when they retire from active politics or when they lose their position as members of County Assembly. Mr. Speaker, for members of Parliament, we have done something, and many members of County Assembly have asked this question: what about us? And therefore, Mr. Speaker, it is a good law that we have brought before this House, that people will now know that when they are in these positions, they'll be saving some money, and when they retire, that money is deducted from their salaries, and when they retire, that money becomes available for them for purposes of their existence, even as they supplement whatever other business they do. Mr. Speaker, this is critical because our retired councillors, Mr. Speaker, many of them, and I know of one particular one, who had a home, who was married. When the term got finished, he stayed with his wife. Financial difficulties came. They separated. He could not manage his family affairs anymore. And Mr. Speaker, even the house that he had built, he had to sell it to somebody else. This man, Mr. Speaker, started living at the mercy of brothers and sisters who will use, at some point, look upon him as their leader. So, Mr. Speaker, we need this kind of planning for our members of County Assembly. We do not want them to be in the position that the former councillors have been subjected to. We do not want them to be in a position like former members of Parliament before we had our Provident scheme that have also been subjected to. Mr. Speaker, serving the public is serving the public. Whether you are a member of the County Assembly, you are a member of the National Assembly, or you are a member of the Senate, or even you are elected as governor, or you are elected as a president. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the law that we formulated for presidents and former presidents, you would see that a president who is a retired president continues to draw 75% of the salary that he used to earn when in active service. So whichever way you look at it, that man or woman would be entitled to a decent life when they retire. When you come to members of County Assembly, Mr. Speaker, that has not been looked at all. When you come to members of the National Assembly and the Senate, Mr. Speaker, the amounts are not comparable to what the presidents or former presidents are getting. So, Mr. Speaker, because all these categories of public servants are doing the same work, they are serving the public, it is good for them to have a decent retirement package. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the formulation of this law, you would see that they have created the trustees who are supposed to manage all the 47 counties. The money is going to be in one place. And trustees are going to be chosen. The qualifications have been given, good qualifications. But Mr. Speaker, in this country, we've had problems and problems and problems when it comes to funds. Anything you see written a fund, CDF, Constituency Development Fund. When you hear Lab Trust Fund, when you hear anything that is ending up with one word called fund, Mr. Speaker, there are problems. There are problems because the structures of our laws seem to be copy and paste. New ideas are not being put to create checks and balances. Mr. Speaker, even in SACCOs, you will see the same problem. When you hear something SACCO, unless there is good management there, you have a problem. In fact, there are some people who think that once a SACCO is established, they would try to get into management so that they can misappropriate funds. They would try to get into a cooperative so that they can misappropriate funds. They would try even to get into this so that they can misappropriate these funds from MCS. So I would want MCAs who are all listening to me and the umbrella organization for members of county assembly. This law is available for you to study and look at. We would want to hear, when we go into public participation, we want to hear a lot from all the 47 counties. How do we tighten the bolts and nuts? How do we make it impossible for someone with ill intention from getting money from your fund? How do we manage this asset that we are creating? Because all of you are going to be deducted and this money is going to be in one place. The temptation for the devil is going to be high because the money will be a lot. And the truth of the matter is, if this law is not tightened, if this law is going to be like other laws, then we are going into a very, very rough ride. You have seen a lot of people complaining that we are not getting our pension on time. We are not getting our money on time. We have this and that and that and the other. Or my father has passed away. He was a member of this fund. He has not gotten anything. Or it's my wife who has gone. Or it is my husband. And Mr. Speaker, I am asking and I am appealing to members of the county assembly to really take time. If I were you listening to Senator Mungatana here today, I would quickly run to the umbrella organization and ask for a meeting that would authorize the hiring of lawyers to just look at how you can improve this law so that this money that is coming in, this fund that you are creating, nobody is going to play around with it. And Mr. Speaker, I think time has come, and maybe time is now, that people like the administrator, who is the CEO of this fund, they must also put a bond, put a property, or put some cash in an account, that if money goes missing, then this fund will have a lien on the money that you have put as a bond. Mr. Speaker, it is not an outrageous requirement. It happens. Most people who are living on rental properties, and we used to live in rental properties, Mr. Speaker, when you go into a house, you pay a deposit. And that deposit says, in the event that the house is in disrepair, I will access that money to put that house in a correct manner so that the next person who is taking over the responsibility of tenantship would be entering a house which doesn't have dents, the doors are broken, the toilet is leaking, and so forth, the taps aren't working. So we need to have serious CEOs, people who are going to be vetted not just by by EACC and so on, not just a certificate of good conduct, but people who would even put their own property. They are willing to put down a title deed that is going to stand as a lien, Mr. Speaker. They are willing to put down cash bond inside a bank. If money is misappropriated, that fund can access that fund, the bond, the security bond, immediately to recover. So that, Mr. Speaker, we have people who are serious about the jobs they are given. And if possible, Mr. Speaker, very serious jail terms should be discussed on these people who are taking responsibility, the administrator and the entire structure. And I'm urging the members of the County Assembly to really take time, because there's a way that we can enrich this law. Let us not say, excellent, we now are creating a fund that will help us to survive when we get out of office, and then we leave it there. You will be the first person who would be crying there in the streets if you go there and you find your money has been eaten and the person is still sitting there, there's no fund, or they deliberately misinvested. Mr. Speaker, billions of shillings are going to be raised in this fund. We need to have duty of care, and the duty of care must be exercised at a very high level. So that, Mr. Speaker, we do not want this fund, Mr. Speaker, all the money that they are collecting, you hear they have put it in some long-term investment. And when the money is required to start sorting out the people who need it, the retirees, there is no money to give to them. So, Mr. Speaker, personally, as I second this bill, I am asking members of the County Assembly, we are passing this law for you. And I know speakers, 47 speakers, somewhere, some of you are listening to me. Some MCAs are listening to me. We are passing this law because for many years, every time since I was elected here as a member of the Senate, we have seen a lot of delegations from County Assembly, people discussing the point that when we finish here, what happens to us? Now the law is with you. Don't sit there and the law is passed and it is not satisfactory, and then you are the first person to complain. I'm asking that this law be improved so that it can encompass in it IT, you know. A lot of payments nowadays, Mr. Speaker, are done through M-Pesa. They are done through bank transfers and so on. And many of the MCAs would be able to transact easily if these provisions are made inside here, so that you do not have to come all the way from Tana River to come and collect your pension in Nairobi. Because this fund, because it is going to be for all the 47 counties, it's going to be operationalized from Nairobi. So you don't want a law that allows for you to travel. If you are from Garissa, you are from Isiolo, you are traveling all the way, you are coming all the way to Nairobi just to come and collect a few shillings. So this law, I believe, if it is improved, it will serve the purpose for which it was created. Mr. Speaker, as I come to finish my submissions, I want to state that when you look at the provisions which are at the end of this bill that we are creating, these are called the saving and transition provision. Mr. Speaker, it is proposing that the members and staff of county assemblies who are members of the local authorities provident fund and the LAP Trust Umbrella Retirement Fund shall be transitioned into the scheme within 6 months upon the commencement of this act. Mr. Speaker, right now we have left the National Hospital Insurance Fund, HIF. And Kenya is transitioning to SHIF and to SHA. Mr. Speaker, there has been a lot of uncertainties, Why? Because when we were writing the law, the savings and transition provisions were not clear. And Mr. Speaker, it's not enough to just say within 6 months, you will be automatic members of the other side. What happens to those contributions within that period of time? Mr. Speaker, what happens to the people who are working in the other provident funds? Are they going to be absorbed? Is it correct to just leave it so wide? Because this whole section, this whole part on savings and transition is only 3 clauses. I am inviting, again, the eventual consumer of this law. These are the county assemblies, the county assembly forum, to look at what are the proper transition clauses that you can put in here. And if you're listening to me, it would be very useful to have clarity on every issue surrounding the provident funds which you are already serving in. For example, there's a clause here I think should be obvious, that the places where you are, the provident funds where you are already serving, they should produce statements within these 6 months. And these statements should be transitioned. Automatic operationalization of your accounts should be transitioned. If new accounts are being created, what is the process? Can these accounts be linked to your phone number? How are we going? It should be that detailed so that you don't have problems. We don't have people like now we are hearing, oh, NHIS was like this, SHIF and SHAF. We don't want this kind of untidiness when we are transitioning from existing provident funds to this new one, which is going to accommodate everyone. So, Mr. Speaker, I second this bill very strongly, and I believe it is a way of helping the many members of the County Assembly who have served in this republic and in Tana River County, so that, Mr. Speaker, when their term is over, they are able to live a decent life. I fully support this bill, and I'm urging every colleague who will stand, because we are the senior brothers in the devolution family, and because we are the ones who are working with our brothers in the County Assembly, and because we care and we have seen what they have gone through, Mr. Speaker, I urge that every senator will speak to this bill, will support it. Mr. Speaker, I urge that all of us will speak with one voice. If there's any divergent opinion, it should be to add to this bill. And I pray that at the time of moving amendments, we shall have very close collaboration with the County Assembly Forum. And they will invite their lawyers so that we can do a very thorough job. It should not be a law that is copy and paste. We shouldn't just look at what other provident funds are doing and then we just copy paste because we do not want to apply our minds in it. So, Mr. Speaker, with those very many remarks, I want to say that I fully support this bill and I beg to second. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.